The shoes you have on your feet, the soles of those shoes are plastic. So we talk about any plastic manufacturing, and everybody in here cheers when you say that, but everybody here is depending on plastic as you set. So if you want to end it, then quit using it.
Hello, Patriots. Welcome back to Signal 76, your beacon of truth in a sea of media spin and radical propaganda. I'm your host, and today we're diving into one of the most revealing Senate hearings we've seen in years, featuring none other than Senator Markwayne Mullin, a true champion of American workers and common-sense conservatism. What we witnessed was more than a debate. It was a total takedown of environmental extremism, live and in real time. Mullin confronted the hypocrisy of a radical anti-plastic activist, Miss Bradford, who came to the Senate demanding the elimination of plastics while sitting there surrounded by it. That moment wasn't just poetic, it was symbolic of the entire progressive playbook. They demand sacrifice from working Americans while refusing to make those sacrifices themselves. Before we dive into every brilliant moment, make sure you subscribe to Signal 76. Join the growing movement of truth-seeking patriots standing strong for American values, manufacturing, and freedom. Smash that like button if you're tired of being lied to by elites pushing anti-American agendas disguised as environmental policy.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Bradford, in your testimony, did I understand you right? Said that you want to end all plastic manufacturing?
I said the plastics industry must be stopped.
So does that mean end plastic manufacturing?
I mean, in my dream world, sure, but I think that, go ahead.
No, so I don't mean to be condescending here. I just point out, what's going to replace your glasses? Like,
so I
you
do
wear your
know.
Glasses around your face. They're made of plastic.
Maybe.
No,
I don't know what they're made out of.
They are. What about, and I'm just pointing out some things here because I just want to be realistic when we're having conversations, because when statements are made like this, I just want to open people's eyes and say, well, okay, that's easy to say, but what's the solution? Your water bottle in front of you.
This one?
Yes. That plastic?
No.
The lid is. That's plastic.
Right. So
Right.
I would say to your
cell phone-
question that I would first be concerned about single-use plastics, and then we can talk about alternatives to this.
Your cell phone there. Is it plastic?
The cases, but it's glass because I broke
Oh, the components
this
inside of it's
screen
not
yesterday.
plastic? The components made out of it's not plastic? Yeah, they are. The water that you filled that water bottle up with, where'd you fill that water bottle up out of?
A water filling station.
All right, and it was delivered by a drink station that was plastic?
I didn't check.
The edges are. The piping coming to it. Now, you have a couple of choices with the piping. We could go back to using wood, but then you have to line it in chemical. Or we could go back and use lead, because we used to have water piping that was lead. That was harmful to us. We go back to galvanized, but galvanized rust and had discoloration. We go back to copper, but copper has to be mined, and everybody wants to stop mining in the U.S. So you use plastic to deliver piping that you fill that water bottle up with today. I point this out because the clothes you have on, I guarantee you have plastic in it. The shoes you have on your feet, the soles of those shoes are plastic. So we talk about any plastic manufacturing, and everybody in here cheers when you say that, but everybody here is depending on plastic as you set. So if you want to end it, then quit using it. It's kind of like, I don't shop at certain places right now because I don't agree with some of their policies. I choose not to do that. You can choose to not use plastic. Do your work. If you believe it, then live it that way. And if not, then tell me what the solution is. Mr. Sunday, can you manufacture a car today without plastic? Because we talked about manufacturing, the chairman brought up manufacturing cars as it is safe, but the components that go into the cars today, can you do that without plastic?
No, Senator, and increasingly so with the new mileage mandates. You increasingly need to use automotive components that are plastics derived.
So we wouldn't have manufacturing, today's modern manufacturing, if we didn't have plastics, correct?
Correct.
Ms. Jackson, do you agree with that statement?
Yes.
So what's the alternative for manufacturing? Because the Democrats talk about middle-class wages. Middle-class wages typically come directly from manufacturing. What is it that we're manufacturing that doesn't have plastic in it today?
Nothing, and you know what? It would increase the cost of everything if we turn to an alternative, and it would disproportionately impact low-income people who have lower incomes. It would be another regressive tax on the poor.
So according to your testimony, Ms. Jackson, it sounds like you're saying that the environmental justice agenda does more harm than good for low-income families. Is that correct?
Yes, and you know, I have the unique opportunity to see both sides when the industry comes in the area and when it doesn't. As an auditor, I worked on Nissan North America. Nissan North America moved to Smyrna, Tennessee, where it built the largest automotive manufacturing plants, and the transformation was astonishing. I mean, it went from a community that was poor to a community that U.S. World News
Wow.
voted one of the top 10 places to retire. You had poor people in areas that were poor that became middle class. You had middle class people that became upper middle class, and a lot of upper middle class people that became affluent. They have attractions, they have amenities, they have housing, affordability. I mean, the amount of prosperity in that area has resonated out 3 counties. 3 counties. I've also had the opportunity to see when an industrial, and that wouldn't happen if you don't have an industrial complex moving into the area where you're talking about high economics. I've also seen the other side where all of a sudden you have deteriorating buildings, empty storefronts, dilapidated housing, people standing on street corner housing, that families that are broken. So we need to balance the fact that people's lives need economic upward mobility. And we can't just say, we're going to take out an industry and leave people poorer than they were. Poverty causes the worst health care in this country. Poverty is the one that destroys lives. It destroys health. It creates trauma. So we need to make sure that when we're talking about these issues, we take into account the human loss of life, not just the environmental impacts.
Thank you. Thanks for your indulgence there.
The crisis in our country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Mullin.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with Ms. Bradford. You stated you're against single-use plastics. What specifically are you pointing at for single-use? What products are you talking about?
Thanks. So definitely straws, definitely plastic bottles. I won't say anything else because I can't think of anything else right now.
So are you for recycling and advanced recycling?
No, because it doesn't work and it doesn't happen.
Well, then in your case and everything's single use at that point. If you're not for recycling, then you can't say you're against single use and you're okay with everything else. Because if you're against
I'm
it,
for
you're against
facts,
all of it.
and I think only 9% worldwide are actually recycled.
That's why I say that we should focus more on recycling. Because if you can tell me you're for recycling, then maybe we can work to something. Because a while ago you did say you wasn't against all of it because you got to be realistic, but you're against single use because that's what the chairman asked you. And so if you're against single use, then you must be for recycling.
No, because it doesn't work.
Well, then that doesn't make any sense at all.
Okay.
Because you can't exist without plastic today. We've already pointed that out. And so I don't know what the alternative is. And we talk about this all the time. It's like Ms. Levin mentioned that that glass is an alternative. But if you remember, sir, at our last hearing we had on plastic, for the record, I submitted the McKinsey and Company study that showed that actually plastic has a less carbon footprint than glass. So where are we moving towards? What is it that we want to look to? If we're still for the middle class, and we got to have manufacturing. We pointed that out, that we can't do without it. We're against it, but yet everybody here is using it. I just see a lot of people having a thought process because it sounds good, but no one's actually living by what you believe.
I don't have any single-use plastics in my house.
You know that for a fact?
I know that for a fact because
What
I
products
go.
do you not have? What products? Because you just mentioned water bottles,
I don't have water bottles like that in my house.
but most of these water bottles are actually recycled, including the one that I'm having.
So I am a masochist and I do participate in recycling. I just know that it doesn't work internationally. It's not adding up.
Well, I would suggest you maybe doing your homework a little bit more when you come up here and you start talking about this stuff, that you actually understand what it is, the impact that you're talking about.
I do my homework. I do understand the
I mean, you
impact.
can't-
I do know I'm wasting my time recycling because most of it's not recycled.
Then,
And that's because of the industry. And the fact
Okay.
that plastic is in everything is because the industry forced us to have
then
it.
quit using plastics.
Well, the industry should stop making them.
Quit using them. If you feel that way, then
I
quit.
do. I just told you I do not have single-use plastic bottles in my house. I
But
do what
you're
I
against-
can.
Hold on a second. You're against all plastic, but you have plastic all around you. So if you're against plastic, then don't use it. Live by what you're saying. There's a lot of people around here that I disagree with, but if you'd live it,
I do live
I
it.
respect it. Ma'am, you don't, because you have plastic on your face, you have plastic on the water bottle, you have plastic on your
I
feet,
do
you have
not
plastic on
own
your-
companies to create these things. So I cannot make these things. But until they are available, we're stuck with some things. I do what I can.
Do you believe in, do you believe that we should have solar systems, or not solar systems, but we should have solar panels on our house?
I do, but I'm here to talk about
So solar panels.
what's
are
on the
made out of
agenda.
plastic. I mean, they are.
And they're also not single use.
Neither is just bottle. Let's go to Mr. Sunday. In your opening statement, you mentioned shale gas was a big reason why United States have led the world in CO2 reduction, because the energy and natural gas liquids in your manufacturing is less emission intense than overseas manufacturing, especially compared to countries like China. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, as I mentioned, Clean Air Task Force looked at the methane intensities, and shale gas in Appalachia has the lowest leakage of any basin in the world. And the increased use of natural gas produced in that region, including Pennsylvania, has been estimated to be about 60% of the reason why we led the world in reducing emissions as a country since '05. So big picture, the issue is how do you reduce emissions, keep costs down, and be reliable? That's the long-term challenge. The short-term challenge is every country out there that's relying on Russian oil and gas, we should be doing everything we can to get our energy over there, because it's also going to be used more sustainably. Because I can guarantee you, you can see the Boston Globe feature from a couple years ago when an LNG tanker came into Boston. When we got shale gas in northeast Pennsylvania, it's the most prolific in the world. I definitely want the producer standards in my state versus Putin's regime. We saw what that led to.
Do you know what the difference between the two standards are?
It's an order of magnitude. I mean, it's so much so that even if you count for transportation across a tanker, shale gas in the U.S. shipped across the seas is more sustainable than pipe coming in from Russia.
Because they're not using electricity in the ships to bring them here. They have combustible motors in them.
Right. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. And trucks to get them to point A to point B, since we can't build pipelines in the East Coast right now.
Right.
With that, sir, I'll yield back.
Thank you very much. Chair of the committee has arrived, Senator Carper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I start today,
Now let's unpack this bombshell. Senator Mullin began by asking Ms. Bradford a straightforward question. What specific single-use plastic should be banned? Her response? Straws and plastic bottles. That's it. 2 items. She's advocating for sweeping legislation without a clue about the broader implications. But it gets worse. When asked about recycling, she openly said she's against it because it doesn't work. That's right. Decades of environmental lobbying boiled down to this. Even recycling, their supposed holy grail, is now dismissed. So let's get this straight. They're against single-use plastics, and they're against recycling. What's the alternative? Crickets. Mullin, staying cool and composed, then exposed the sheer absurdity of it all. He pointed out all the plastic Miss Bradford was using: glasses, a water bottle, clothes, shoes. She claimed she didn't have plastic bottles at home, while holding one. That contradiction is the core of the environmental left's game. Rules for thee, not for me. They want to legislate away your job, your industry, your lifestyle, while exempting themselves from every hardship they impose on others. But this hearing wasn't just about one person's hypocrisy. It exposed the broader consequences of radical policies. Mullin connected the dots. Eliminate plastic, and you eliminate millions of American jobs, from manufacturing to logistics, healthcare to construction. Plastic is not just convenience. It's the backbone of modern life. The argument that plastic is always worse for the planet? A myth. Senator Mullin cited data showing that glass and aluminum alternatives often have a higher carbon footprint. McKinsey studies show plastic is frequently the less harmful option environmentally. Even solar panels and EV components rely heavily on plastics and petrochemicals. Let's not forget energy. Another witness, Mr. Sunday, reminded the panel that American shale gas has done more to reduce global emissions than any green policy. Since 2005, U.S. emissions are down largely because of shale. Appalachian natural gas, in particular, has the lowest methane leakage in the world. That's what the left won't admit. American energy innovation works. We lead the world in emission reduction not through mandates and taxes, but through free market solutions and American ingenuity. The environmental left, however, wants to dismantle this progress and hand over our economic future to foreign nations like China. If we shut down American plastic and energy industries, where do the products come from? China. Who benefits when U.S. factories close? China. This is more than policy failure. It's economic sabotage. Mullin didn't stop with facts. He went deeper, highlighting the human cost of radical environmentalism. Miss Jackson's testimony told the real story. She watched Smyrna, Tennessee, transform from poverty to prosperity when Nissan brought in manufacturing. 3 counties lifted into the middle class. That's the power of American industry. Compare that to the economic wastelands left behind when manufacturing leaves. Empty storefronts, broken families, and poverty. These are the real environmental consequences. Not air quality, but economic despair. Miss Jackson nailed it when she said poverty causes worse health outcomes than any environmental hazard. And here's the most damning part. The left knows this. Their own witness admitted that banning plastics would hit poor families hardest. The elites won't suffer from rising prices. They'll just switch to green alternatives. But working-class Americans? They'll be crushed under the weight of regressive costs and job losses. That's the left's real agenda. Not protecting the environment, but controlling people. They push dependency on government by killing industries that build independence. They talk about justice, but all they deliver is bureaucratic dominance and economic decline. Mullin issued the perfect challenge. If plastic is so evil, stop using it. Lie by your principles. But they won't. Because they can't. Because the modern world, from medicine to transportation to food safety, runs on plastic. They want everyone else to sacrifice, while they virtue signal from the comfort of plastic-made conveniences. Let's talk solar for a second. The environmental left glorifies it, but solar panels require rare earth metals mined under horrific conditions, mostly in China. They require plastic, natural gas backup, and massive land use. But try bringing that up, and you're shouted down as anti-environment. This is where Senator Mullin excelled. He didn't just fight back, he fought smart. He exposed how environmental ideology crumbles when challenged with facts. He forced real accountability. And most importantly, he stood up for the American worker. This hearing was a wake-up call. The radicals pushing the Green New Deal, anti-plastic bans, and climate hysteria don't care about results. They care about control. They want to dismantle what works and replace it with fantasy policies that make life harder and more expensive for regular people. It's time we stop letting them dominate the narrative. American innovation, American manufacturing, and American energy are not the problem. They are the solution. The 2024 election sent a clear message. Americans are done with policies that destroy jobs and raise costs in the name of ideology. We voted for common sense. We voted for prosperity. We voted for leaders like Senator Markwayne Mullin. Now it's up to us to keep the pressure on. So patriots, stay alert. Stay informed. Share this video. Subscribe to Signal 76 and help us shine a light on the hypocrisy the mainstream media refuses to cover. Let's keep supporting leaders who fight for the truth, who fight for working families, and who fight for America. Until next time, this is Signal 76, your signal in the storm. Stay strong and keep fighting for the country we love.